Hi, I love to answer real questions from real people with real problems, so that's what this video is for. If you have a question you would like me to answer, please just email me at support@rickolderman.com and I'll do my best to get to it. Also, I have a new book coming out in the fall of 2024 called Pain Patterns, Why You Are Having Pain and How to Stop It. And if you'd like to be notified when that comes out, then just mention that in the email and I'll let you know that too. All right, let's get to the question. This is from Kim. I had a torn tendon repaired and bursitis cleaned up in the right hip a year ago. Unfortunately, the pain has never improved, and now the left hip has pain just as bad. Going up even one step is hard. At age 67, am I to assume this pain is what I'm to expect the rest of my life? Prior to this, I was very active. Well, the short answer is no, Kim. I don't believe that you should expect to have this for the rest of your life, especially if you solve the reasons why it's happening in the first place. So if you're just going to continue as usual, then likely you may have this pain for the rest of your life. So let me talk to you about what I think may be going on here based on my experience with working with a lot of hips. So I'm not sure which tendon was torn in your hip. That's not kind of an unusual place to have a tendon repair. But the bursitis is usually happening on the outside of the greater trochanter here. All right. There's an IT band that starts up here on the iliac crest and comes down over the side of the hip and inserts down in the lower leg here. And it can rub against the bursa of that hip bone and cause bursitis. Itis just means inflammation. So it just means something's getting rubbed too hard. There are several reasons this could be happening. So I'm going to try and go over as many of those as I can in this video. I've made other videos about these issues, so I'll be referring to some other videos I've already made just to make this answer a little shorter. What is typically happening with most chronic hip pain is something called anterior femoral glide syndrome. Most practitioners have never heard of this, but basically what it means is that the thigh bone is migrating forward in the hip socket, especially when the hip is flexing. It's migrating forward, that's the anterior part, and femoral, this is the femur, glide, it's gliding forward, syndrome, which means there's a constellation of problems that typically surrounds this phenomenon. What I have found in my experience clinically is that the most common cause of this is your walking pattern. And so what is happening is that when most people are walking, they are putting their foot out in front of them and their body is remaining behind and then they come forward. Well, when doing this, what happens is the heel strikes and the knee typically locks, which then turns off the gluteal muscles, which are the strongest muscles in your body and designed to carry our whole lower body and trunk and pelvis system. If those muscles are off while we are moving forward and they only turn on at the very end here, then that's too late in the cycle for them to do any real work. What should be happening when we walk is that when the foot is moving forward, the entire body should be moving forward with it. When you land on the foot in this way, now the knee is softer, it doesn't lock, the gluteal muscle is turned on and it is controlling the orientation of the thigh bone, the pelvis, and consequently the lumbar spine during gait. This pattern of walking is often a function of wearing shoes with thick heels, like tennis shoes with thick heels and so forth, that lets us get away with a hard heel strike. Well, the harder that heel strike, the more the knee will then lock and turn off the glutes. So an easy way to test whether your glutes are turning on or not is if you just put your fingertips on your butt muscles, not at the bottom, not at the top, but right in the center, and just well, first of all, let's test them. First, pinch your butt cheeks together and you'll feel that they contract underneath your fingertips. And now relax them completely, all right? Now keep your fingertips there and just take 10 steps around the room and see whether your butt muscles are turning on when you're walking. Most people with chronic hip, knee, or back issues, SI joint pain, sciatic pain, and so forth, will find that one or both of their butt muscles are not working. Kim, I'm going to guess both of yours aren't working because now you're telling me that the left hip is also experiencing the same pain. So what is happening here, what this is showing you, is that your butt muscles are not working when you're walking, which is the critical point at which they should be walking. So how do we fix something like this? Well, if you just get up on your tippy toes and walk around for 10 or 20 steps, you'll feel that the butt muscles start to turn on a little bit, maybe 5 or 10% of that maximum contraction you just did a minute ago. This is what the glutes should be doing when we're walking naturally, is turning on. And then if you keep walking like that with your fingertips on your butt and then slowly lower your heels down, you'll notice, hey, they seem to be staying on now. Well, what you're doing is training your walking pattern to turn on your glutes correctly. How does tiptoe walking turn on the butt muscles? I'm going to take a little break here and ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit that notification button so that you're notified when I release future videos. Thanks. What's going on with the tiptoe walking, you'll notice that it's impossible for your foot to land out in front of you when you're tiptoe walking. You just can't do it. Instead, tiptoe walking is forcing your body to remain over the foot at foot strike, and your knee is soft at each foot strike. And so what it's doing is correcting those two critical pieces of gait pattern that need to be corrected in order to turn on the butt muscles. And then when you do a few steps like that and then lower your heels down, your butt muscles start to stay turned on because you fixed the gait pattern. So what I typically recommend for most people, Kim, is just do the tiptoe walking every time you get up out of a chair, out of bed, whenever you're going from sit to stand, or even if you're walking for a long period of time, just periodically do 10 steps of tiptoe walking, so that every time you walk, you'll be fixing your gait pattern. This will naturally activate your gluteal muscles. If you think about it, if you take 10,000 steps a day, then that'll be 10,000 contractions of your butt muscles that will then correct a potential anterior femoral glide syndrome. So let's go into the anterior femoral glide syndrome and explain what's going on there. So as I mentioned, what's going on is that the femur head is gliding forward in the hip socket. Why is this happening? Well, the primary controller of the tracking of the hip bone in the socket is the butt muscle. And so if the butt muscle isn't turning on during your gait pattern, it's allowing this to become very sloppy. If you think about it like a washing machine that's out of balance, it's just careening all around the drum, that's basically what your hip bone is doing in its socket. And so what this does is it will cause labral tears in the hip, it will cause pain in the front of the hip in the groin area, it will cause bursitis because the whole thing's migrating underneath that IT band and therefore rubbing in the wrong place on the bursa. It'll cause piriformis syndrome, it can cause SI joint pain, it can cause sciatic pain, it can cause a whole host of, it can cause knee pain, foot issues. The butt is central to lower body function. This will even be diagnosed as arthritic pain. Yes, you can make hip arthritic pain go away simply by getting the butt to activate correctly and track the hip bone in the socket. You can imagine if this thing is careening around the hip socket unnaturally, that is causing then irritation to the joint. Arthritis. Itis is inflammation of the joint. And so what that will do is then improve the tracking, and even if your cartilage has broken down in the joint, it'll improve how that joint is functioning to decrease the irritation associated with that cartilage breakdown. And gait is one of the most fundamental things that we do during the day. If you get gait wrong, it's going to have ripple effects throughout the entire system. And this is probably what's going on with you. All right, now another thing that the butt muscle does is it controls the rotation of the thigh bone. And so if the butt isn't working well, the thigh bone is going through excessive, usually internal rotation at foot strike. Because you're landing on it, there's nothing controlling it. The butt muscle is also an external rotator of the thigh bone. And so if that external rotator isn't working, then the bone is just going to go inward rapidly like this. Well, internal rotation of the thigh bone increases compression at the hip joint and the knee joint and even the foot. And so the butt is critical to how this thigh bone works. I could go on and on and on, but I think you're getting the point. And this is what's likely going on with you. And now your left hip is breaking down in the same way, probably because you're trying to get off the right side, and now you're overloading the left side, and the left side isn't working either, and it's starting to break down as well. You can very easily fix this. And that tiptoe walking is one of the first ways that you can start trying to get this to fix. I have other things in my home program and so forth. There may be a myriad problems in your lower body function that's contributing to the glute turning off and or the bursitis pain, but ultimately everything, you can't fix any of these issues if you don't fix your gait pattern. So that's where I'm going to recommend that you start right now. Okay, so hopefully that gets Kim on the right track. And if you have questions you'd like to ask yourself, please submit them to support@rickolderman.com. And don't forget to mention if you'd like me to notify you of when my pain patterns book comes out in the fall of 2024. Thanks.